Hello, hello, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fallout 76 for our weekly trip to Mama Mumbles' Discount Den of Disappointment, where we're going to burn through 1,000 scrip on 3-star legendary weapons, as we always do. Also, as we always do, I'll spend a little bit of time talking about what makes each one good, what makes each one not so good, and we'll test out our luck. Last couple of weeks, we've had some interesting things drop. Maybe we'll get lucky again. Time will tell. Remember, if you like videos like this and you want to see more, do go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. Okay, enough shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and see what she's got for us today. And our first roll of the day is an Assassin's Bow with limb damage and extra perception. So the Assassin's effect, not super desirable, especially on a bow. Gives us 10% more damage to humans, that's human NPCs, as well as players, but that's fairly insignificant. The extra limb damage effect here, while that can be useful on some weapons, on a weapon like this where your goal is to kill things in one shot, it's a little less useful. If it's dead, I don't really care if its limbs are broken. Extra perception does help a little bit, that's going to improve VAT's accuracy, so that's not a bad thing. But overall, if I'm going for a bow, this is probably not the one I want. Let's see what's next. And now we've got, that's a little bit interesting. Okay. A Zealot's Explosive Minigun with 50 damage resistance while aiming. While the Zealot's effect is one of numerous situational damage effects, it's not the most desirable thing in the world, but it's not totally useless either. This is especially true if you do a lot of Scorchbeast Queen fights. Now, the other thing that's great here is we've got exploding bullets. That is not going to help you so much against the Scorchbeast Queen, but against all those adds, it can be useful. Exploding bullets in a heavy gun do like to send your enemies flying away from you as well, which is very useful. Seriously, take this thing to Radiation Rumble and watch the ghouls fly around. Even while they're still alive, it's awesome. Extra damage resistance while aiming. It's not a huge benefit, but it doesn't hurt. Something like this, while it can be a hip-fire weapon, you may very well aim down sights for a little bit tighter accuracy, so that's not a bad thing to have at all. Overall, not an amazing weapon. I'd love it if it had a better effect than Zealots, but Zealots isn't the worst of the situational effects to get, and when we pair it with Explosive, it could definitely be a fun time for somebody. And now we've got an Instigating Flamer with VAT's critical shots doing more damage and less VAT's AP cost. So we got a Bloodied Flamer a couple weeks ago that was pretty cool, but this one I'm not as in love with. The Instigating effect got a pretty heavy nerf a few months back, so it doesn't really do double damage, it does double base damage, and the base damage on a Flamer just isn't that high, so you're not really getting a whole lot out of that. VAT's critical perks are nice to have on a lot of weapons, but not really on a heavy gun. The Flamer is much more of a hip-fire type weapon. You're really not going to be using this in VATS a lot, and your heavy gunner build probably isn't going to be built around VATS anyway. So, not a huge benefit there. This set of effects could be great on something like a lever-action rifle or even a black powder rifle, but on a heavy gun, they're just kind of lost on this, so unfortunately, this is a great example of a great set of effects on absolutely the wrong weapon. That happens sometimes, but sometimes we get them on good ones, so we'll see what we get next. Let's take a look here. Come on, Mama Mumbles, what do you have for us? And this is the other example of things she does wrong. Good second and third stars paired with an absolutely terrible primary star. Nocturnal is absolutely the least desirable effect in the game. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think that's true. So, yeah, the problem with it is you get more damage at night, but you do less damage during the day, and your damage bonus at night is really only noticeable for part of the night. So, not very useful at all, and in fact, completely counterproductive for half the time you're playing the game. Faster fire rate is great on an automatic weapon. That would be awesome if this was almost any other primary. Damage resistance while aiming, same thing. Would be useful if it was paired with anything else. But unfortunately, because it's got Nocturnal on here, this one is absolutely a dud, and it's gonna go back to the Scrip bin. Let's see what she has for us next. And up next is, oh. Ooh, well, this is interesting. So here we've got a bloodied Gauss shotgun with bashing damage and faster reload. So, as we all know, I am no fan of bashing damage. Yes, before you put it in the comments, I know there are limited scenarios like shredding minigun barrels and building a random character for bayonet usage. I get it. There are niche scenarios where somebody might really like bashing damage, but let's just all be honest with ourselves here. 99.9% of the time that effect drops, it's complete garbage, okay? Let's not get too excited about the one scenario where it's good. Moving on here, what is good is the bloodied effect, is the fact that it's a Gauss shotgun. This thing is absolutely going to destroy everything in its path. Honestly, if you're a bloodied build and you have one of these, it's going to do extremely well, even if you're not a shotgun build. But what's great is we have perk loadouts coming next week. So I'm going to be able to take my main character, who is a bloodied build, and do a second set of perks to make him a shotgun build. So that's going to be perfect for this. We'll definitely get a showcase of that once that's all built up and ready to go. Faster reload certainly helps. It's going to improve the DPS. Bashing damage does nothing for this weapon. But yeah, so I am pretty stoked for this one. This is going to do a lot of damage. It's going to be very powerful, and I'm really excited to show it off once we've got that second build all up and running. Okay, we got a good one. What else do we get today? All right, this is kind of interesting. This isn't total garbage. All right, so we've got a mutant's Gatling gun with exploding bullets and less VATS AP. So this is an interesting weapon in that it could be used as kind of a sidearm for a heavy gunner. So when you're a heavy gunner, you're not really built for VATS. You don't have a ton of agility, so you don't have a ton of AP. But you don't always want to be just raining bullets down on everything. If you're doing some low-level event, having a weapon like this could be useful. Shoots 5mm, it's cheap, plentiful ammo. Mutant's effect gives it a little bit of a damage buff, nothing crazy, but a little bit. And bullets exploding for area damage is always good. That's a nice damage buff. And the fact that it uses 25% less VATS AP when you use it in VATS means that maybe even though you don't have a ton of AP in your build, you could actually get away with that. So this could be an interesting weapon to use in those scenarios. And the other thing is a lot of heavy gunners run the Bare Arms perk, reduce the weight of their heavy guns. So it's easy to carry something like this around as kind of a backup weapon for those lower level areas where you don't need to use all your 50 cal ammo just to take out mole rats and ghouls when you're trying to get some canned meat stew. So that's where this weapon can be kind of interesting. It is a bit of a niche weapon, but I could see this being useful for almost any heavy gunner because it's the mutant's effect. If you're a high level player, you've got a mutation. So you're good. You can make something out of this weapon. Anyway, I've gone on too long about this one. Let's move on and see what else we've got. And we've got 3 rolls left, and one of them is a bloodied grenade launcher with 10% damage while aiming and faster movement speed while aiming. So I have not been a big user of the explosive launcher weapons in Fallout 76, so I'm probably not the best judge of this one. I've had a lot of people tell me that a weapon like this can be powerful and a lot of fun. I'm willing to take their word for it. 10% damage while aiming is a nice little damage boost if you're aiming down sights. Faster movement speed while aiming would make that a little bit easier. I would imagine that this is more of a hip fire or even a VATS use kind of weapon, but so maybe those second and third stars aren't doing a whole lot for you, but I could be wrong about that. So it's kind of an interesting one. At some point, I will do an explosives build as one of my alternate loadouts, so we'll get to play with some of these at some point in the future. So yeah, so not bad. Anytime you get a bloodied weapon, it's usually a good thing. So if we're gonna get one, this is probably a decent one. Let's move along. And 2 more left. Oh, really? So here's another example of very good second and third star, very terrible first star. And it's even on a half decent weapon. The combat rifle, don't get me wrong, it's not as good as a fixer, but it's still pretty good. Faster fire rate's gonna improve our DPS. Faster reload's gonna improve our DPS. Unfortunately, the Stalker's effect does nothing. In my testing with it, it does nothing. It doesn't work. It's useless. So yeah, so really not very useful at all. But the second and third stars are good. So if you didn't have a legendary automatic rifle, this wouldn't be a bad one to have, even though it doesn't have a good primary. But yeah, you kind of get the point. So another example of that. Good second and third, bad first, mediocre weapon. One roll left. What do you have for me, Mama Mumbles? Tell me old man McRib's been good to you this week. Let's see. Oh my. And apparently old man McRib has been good to Mama Mumbles this week. This is awesome. Okay, let's talk about this one. So it's a fixer, which we all know is probably the best of your commando weapons. Some people do prefer the handmade just because of the way it handles, but the fixer does do more damage than a handmade. Not much more, but a tiny bit. Still and yet, matter of preference there. I tend to like the fixer. I like how it looks. I like the extra sneak buff. So I'll take that every time. I love the Executioner's effect. The Executioner's effect, in my opinion, is still very underrated. It performs extremely well. It does what it's supposed to do. Now, it's not the most effective thing for farming basic enemies. You're going around killing ghouls or scorched. You're going to kill them before it matters. But when you take on bigger, tankier enemies, like bosses, like Scorch Beasts, things like that, that's where you're really going to see that effect shine, especially if you're a stealth build and you're pairing that with follow-through, because now you're stacking follow-through and you're stacking executioners. You've got a ton of damage when that enemy is below 40% health. Now on here, we've got my favorite second star, 33% VATS hit chance. This one is an effect that a lot of people sleep on. They want fire rate, they want explosive because, it's flashy, it's fun, you can see the effect right in front of you. VATS hit chance is underrated. What this does, effectively what this effect does, is it allows you in VATS to target weak points much easier. You'll notice in VATS if you target a torso, you get a 95% hit chance most of the time. You move that to a limb or a head, that hit chance drops way down. That's where this comes in handy. You're going to get a better hit chance on heads, limbs, weak points, all of those things, and that's where you do the most damage. So this effect is essentially a damage buff. It just doesn't say it. Now we've got extra perception. That's also going to tie into that. It's going to give us better VATS accuracy overall. So our second and third stars synergize well together. I love the Executioner's effect. I love the fixer. This, for me, is an ultimate type of roll. This is a god roll for me. May not be a god roll for you, but it is for me. So Mama Mumbles has done right by us today. And I don't know, maybe I miscounted here somewhere. I had 100 more scripts, so one more. And this one is not as good. It's a Vampire's Western revolver with exploding bullets and VATS critical meter filling 15% faster. So the effects are all good. I have no complaints about the effects. Vampires is awesome. Heals you while you're fighting. That's very, very useful. Exploding bullets is more damage. VATS critical meter filling faster is perfect for a pistol build. So yeah, really no issue with this other than the fact that it's a revolver. You can't suppress it, so you really can't sneak effectively with it. It's underpowered, as all pistols are in Fallout 76, particularly revolvers. If they give revolvers a damage buff or find some way to give them sneak benefits, maybe some special perk card or something like that, then I think they would be a lot more viable. But as they currently stand, they're a bit underpowered, although they can be fun to use. So you may be somebody who likes to do a cowboy gun build, and if you are, then this is a pretty good weapon for that. It's not one that I would personally choose, but I really like to be sneaky. So maybe you don't. Maybe this weapon would be better for you. At this point, I'm still just really excited about that Executioner's fixer, and I think it's about time to wrap this one up for today. So this is 3 weeks in a row now where we've got some really interesting stuff from Mama Mumbles. I fully anticipate next week's video to be full of pain and disappointment, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. We don't know yet. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, do go ahead and subscribe. Hit hit the like button, leave a comment. You can also follow me on Twitter, where you'll get alerts every time I go live, and I try to remember to post when new videos go live on the channel as well, but, and amongst other things. So anyway, enough of all that. I do appreciate you all hanging around. I hope to see you next time, and until then, I'm Fisty McRib.